Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. The journey of this story is still continuing, and in the previous episodes, we have witnessed layers of memories gradually being uncovered, truths slowly revealed after more than 30 years that once seemed buried by time. It has been a journey of a man returning to his past, not simply to revisit a place, but to confront the very mistakes he once made, the things he never had the courage to face for so many years. Throughout that long period, the guilt never disappeared. It wasn't loud or explosive, but quietly lingered in every thought, every moment of his life. Some things, the more you try to forget, the deeper they become etched. And because of that, his decision to return to his hometown this time was not a sudden impulse, but the result of years of inner conflict. He quietly sought the help of a detective to find a woman named Thoa, the girl from his past, who once shared with him a sincere and simple love, free of calculation. And as the clues slowly came together, as things that once seemed lost forever unexpectedly resurfaced, a truth that left many in shock began to emerge. Hoai, the man who had grown up and built his own life, was actually his biological son. A truth that came late, yet carried the weight of an entire past. After so many years of separation, what that man wanted was not anything grand, not immediate forgiveness, but simply a chance. A chance to meet Thoa and her son again, to say the words he never said back then, to somehow make up, if only a little, for what he had lost because of his own decision. And in this new episode, the story does not stop at searching or confronting, but goes deeper, revealing the true reason behind his return, a reason that had silently existed, growing within him all those years. Let us go back in time, to when everything was still simple. When he was just a young man, carrying dreams he had yet to fulfill. When Thoa was still a girl of quiet days in a poor countryside village, where life moved slowly, where love was nurtured from the smallest things. Their love did not need grand promises. It came naturally, gently, yet deeply. It was in simple meetings, trusting glances, and the moments they spent together, believing that as long as they had each other, they could overcome anything. They once believed in a shared future. A small home. A life not necessarily abundant, but complete as long as they had each other. And then one day, when Thoa became pregnant, everything seemed to shift into a completely different phase. That should have been joy. The beginning of a small family. Something that made their love feel more complete than ever. The man, at that time, had truly thought about marrying her. Not just a passing idea, but clear visions of a future ahead, one filled with responsibility, connection, and a child as the embodiment of the love they had built together. But then, during that very time, before the joy could fully settle, another feeling quietly emerged. At first, just small thoughts. Then slowly, they grew. Until they became impossible to ignore. During long nights, when everything around fell into silence, he began thinking more about his own future, not only as a husband or a father, but also about the dreams he had carried for so long. And then, a question kept repeating in his mind. What if he stayed? What if he tied his life forever to this countryside? What if he accepted a life that was stable, but quiet? He was afraid. Afraid that all the ambitions he once held would slowly be buried. Afraid that his unfulfilled dreams would remain nothing more than thoughts. Afraid that once he chose to stay, he would never again have the chance to step beyond the limits of his current life. That feeling did not come all at once, but slowly, deeply, drawing him into his own thoughts. Between one side, love, responsibility, and the child about to be born, and the other, ambition, the desire to go further, he was not strong enough to hold on to both. He was unwilling to give up his dreams. But also not brave enough to face his responsibilities. And then, in a decision he himself could never forgive, he chose to leave. A silent departure. No goodbye. No explanation. Not even a single glance back. He left behind the woman carrying his child, left behind all the love that had never been completed, as if walking away fast enough would spare him from facing what he had just lost. And to ease the guilt in his heart, he comforted himself that Thoa would eventually forget him. That she would not keep the child. That she would move on, find someone better, someone more worthy. Those thoughts may not have been true, but they were the only things that allowed him to keep moving forward without looking back. Until many years later, when everything he once believed, once assumed, began to reveal itself in a completely different way. But he was wrong. Wrong from the very thoughts he had once used to comfort himself throughout all those years he chose to leave. He had believed that time would fade everything away, that what he left behind would eventually find its own path, but reality was nothing like that. Thoa did not choose to forget. Nor did she choose to start over in the way he had imagined. She chose to become a single mother. A choice that was never easy, especially in those times, when society still carried many harsh prejudices. A woman without a husband, yet pregnant and raising a child, it was not just a personal matter, but something that became the subject of gossip, judgmental glances, and words that seemed casual, yet carried heavy criticism. She had to live through days where every step could be scrutinized. Every action could become something for others to talk about. Not only from people around her, but even her own family could not accept that reality. The pressure from relatives, the opposition, even the rejection, all of it fell upon her shoulders at a time when she should have been protected and understood the most. But despite all of that, she chose to keep the child. A decision that needed no explanation, no approval from anyone. Simply because she could not let go. She gave birth to Hai. Born into hardship, into prejudice, into tears that perhaps no one could fully understand. And then, she raised him alone. No companion. No support. Only herself, facing everything. Day by day, every stage of Hai's growth was tied to her silent sacrifices. The struggles, the loneliness, the moments that seemed impossible to overcome, she endured them all quietly, not for herself, but for one single reason. So that her child could live. Could grow. Could have a life. As for the man, after leaving, he went far away. Far not only in distance, but also in life, in circumstances, in the path he chose. In the early days, he started again from nothing, facing the hardships of a man who had nothing but ambition. Step by step, he rebuilt everything. Step by step, he moved forward. And then, a major turning point came, completely changing his life. He married a wealthy heiress. A marriage that was not just about love, but one that opened an entirely different door for him. His wife's family became a strong support, a foundation that allowed him to develop his career faster and more powerfully than ever before. From a man who had nothing, he gradually gained everything. Money. Status. Reputation. The things he once longed for, once feared he would never have if he stayed in his hometown, now appeared in his life one by one, as proof of the choice he had made. But among all of that, there was one thing he did not have. He had no child. His wife had a child of her own, but that was not his blood. And over time, despite a life that seemed complete, despite everything appearing fulfilled, they never had a child together. A void began to form. At first, it wasn't clear. But as the years passed, it became more and more present. His wife's family gradually weakened. The strong support he once relied on was no longer as solid as before. Meanwhile, he became more successful, wealthier. Everything others saw was admiration, achievements worth envying. But only he could feel the emptiness growing inside him. The more he had, the more he realized there were things that money and status could never fill. In quiet moments, when he looked back on the path he had taken, he began to feel that something important was missing, something he couldn't immediately name. Until one day, when he was no longer young, when his health began to decline, he went for a medical checkup. And then, news he was never prepared to face, came. He had cancer. A short diagnosis, but one that carried the weight of an unchangeable truth. Time was no longer much. In that moment, everything he had ever gained, everything he had achieved, suddenly felt meaningless. Not because it had no value, but because when faced with the limits of life, he realized there were things far more important than everything he had once pursued. He looked back at his entire life. A long journey filled with achievements. A career many admired. A fortune that not everyone could have. But no real biological child by his side. His wife's child, over time, became a disappointment. There was no closeness, no real family bond, only an increasing distance. That person lived recklessly, indulging in pleasures, showing no concern for work, no effort, no responsibility, and seemed to be waiting for only one thing. Waiting for the day he would be gone. To inherit everything he left behind. That realization hurt him more than anything. Not because of the wealth, but because he understood. Throughout his life, what he had traded away was exactly the one thing he could never get back in the end. And it was in that very moment, when everything around him seemed to slow down, when the doctor's words still echoed clearly in his mind, he finally faced himself. No longer the daily busyness, no more calculations of work, no more goals he had chased his entire life, only a deep, undeniable silence remained, forcing him to look directly at everything he had lived through. For the first time in many years, he truly felt the price of his decision back then. A price that could not be measured by money, could not be compensated by status, and certainly could not be changed by regret alone. That price was an entire lifetime. A life where he had chosen a different path, leaving behind what should have mattered most. The more he thought, the clearer it became. That what he once believed was right, had turned out to be his greatest mistake. That everything he had worked so hard to achieve, could never fill the deep emptiness inside him. And then, during those days of facing illness, when time was no longer long ahead, a thought began to grow within him, clearer with each passing day. He began to believe that perhaps everything happening now was karma. Not a punishment from someone else, but the consequence of his own choices. Because he had once turned his back on Thoa and her child. Because he had left them when they needed him the most. Because he had walked away without a single explanation. And so, in the end, he could not have a child truly by his side. A child of his own blood. A child who could call him father, not in name, but in true connection. That realization did not bring him peace. On the contrary, it made the pain even deeper. But from that pain, he slowly came to understand something he had never fully realized before. In the final days of his life, what he truly desired was no longer what he once pursued. Not money. Not fame. Not achievements that others admired. But simply a chance. A chance to see his son again. Just once. To stand before Hai, not as a successful man, not as someone who had everything, but as a father who had made mistakes, who had left, and who now returned with all his regret. He wanted to say sorry. A word he had kept inside for more than 30 years. A word he should have said long ago, but never had the courage to. He wanted to make amends. Even though he knew nothing could fully make up for what had been lost. Nothing could turn back time. Nothing could erase the years Hoai had grown up without him. But even if it was just a small part, even if it was only a fragile chance, he still wanted to try. And so, he began to search. No longer vague thoughts. No longer distant memories. But real actions. He hired investigators, following every small trace, every piece of information that seemed insignificant. Every clue, every detail was precious to him, like the only thread connecting him to the past he had lost. The process was not easy. But he did not give up. Because this time, he no longer wanted to run away. And finally, after all that effort, he found them. The place where Thoa and Hoai were living. That moment came. Not loudly. Not explosively. But quietly, heavily. Because he understood. Finding them did not mean things would become easy. On the contrary, it was only the beginning. The beginning of a confrontation he had avoided for more than 30 years. But this time, he did not want to turn away. Did not want to repeat the same mistake. He returned. Carrying everything he had. Not just wealth, not just the material things he had built, but all his regret, all the years of torment, all the words he had never spoken. He wanted to acknowledge Hoai. Not to fulfill a title. But to give back what Hoai should have had from the very beginning. He wanted to give him everything he had built. But deep inside was a very simple wish. Before closing his eyes, he could find peace. Peace because he had returned. Peace because he had faced the truth. Peace because he had spoken what needed to be said. Peace because he had tried, even if it was too late. But life never unfolds the way we hope. Returning does not guarantee acceptance. Regret does not guarantee forgiveness. Wanting to make amends does not mean everything can go back to how it was. Will things happen the way he hopes? Will Hoai, a man who grew up without a father, who spent more than 30 years missing a crucial part of his life, be able to accept a truth that came too late? Will Thoa, a woman who carried all the pain, the humiliation, the hardship alone, be able to open her heart to forgive the man who left her without a word? And when the truth about his illness is revealed, when time is no longer something that can be stretched, when everything becomes more urgent than ever, how will their emotions, their choices, their decisions change? Everything still lies ahead. Unspoken words. Unnamed emotions. Confrontations with uncertain outcomes. Stay tuned for the next episode tomorrow. To discover more about the emotional developments, the difficult choices, and what each character will face in the next chapter of this story.
Xin chào mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình đưa tới một video về câu chuyện của Tiểu San và Hải nha mọi người. Video hôm nay thì xoay quanh câu chuyện của Hải và đặc biệt là lý do vì sao mà bố Hải, người đàn ông năm xưa đã bỏ rơi mẹ con anh, đã quay trở về. Nguyên nhân thực sự khiến ông quay trở về là gì? Vậy thì mọi chuyện tiếp theo sẽ ra sao, diễn biến như thế nào thì mời mọi người đón xem tiếp tập sau để biết thêm diễn biến câu chuyện nhé mọi người. Và liệu rằng Hải có chấp nhận bố mình và quay trở lại hay không, và điều gì tiếp theo sẽ xảy ra. Hôm nay thì mình không lên video và mình sẽ lên video vào sáng ngày 23 nha mọi người. Ngày 22 hôm nay thì mình sẽ không lên video. Cảm ơn mọi người rất nhiều vì đã theo dõi kênh của mình nhé. Tạm biệt mọi người, hẹn gặp lại mọi người trong video sau.